Welcome everyone. And I can see that we're starting the recording. And I hope, Stephanie, you're going to be admitting people so they can get in. Let me enable everything.
I will.
Got it. Okay, great. I'm going to be leading a session called Teaching and Learning with LinkedIn Learning, the online video library. Just to give you a hint who I am, I'm Lori Burris. I've been teaching forever, but I've been at lynda.com, aka LinkedIn Learning, since 2009. I now teach a course on design pedagogy at USC at the graduate level. And I've been teaching forever, just forever at so many different schools. But I want to get going so that we have time to talk about what's going on in video, what's going on in online teaching with video. So just here we go. I put in a little agenda so that if you go back to the recording that you can jump to wherever you want to see what's going on. I'll be covering some case studies, talking about using it in teaching and learning, how to get started, and how to use the data that LinkedIn now provides with LinkedIn Learning. So there has been a 63% increase in time spent learning by learners at LinkedIn Learning. It's gone from an average of 500,000 hours of videos of content per week to 1 million hours of video content per week. What's behind the surge in online learning? This is video's moment in teaching and learning. There's an explosion of online video content. We are seeing a need for large amounts of content for self-paced online delivery, or what we call asynchronous learning. Many schools and businesses have limited resources or dollars, and video training and learning is one way to address this issue. Most recently, during the pandemic, video has been a way to capture all kinds of learning, a lot of learning. And finally, users are increasingly experienced and demanding more dynamic, rich, and interactive learning content. They expect to be engaged. So what is out there right now? So I'm going to look at how people are learning with online video by exploring 3 case studies. I'm going to start with case study number 1, which is kind of an old one. It comes from 5 or 7 years ago, and it's from Stanford's Open Classroom. Several years ago, on my teaching break, I really wanted to beef up on interactive design and was so excited to see this course, Intro to Human-Computer Interaction Design, offered for free online by Stanford University. So let's take a look.
In July of 1945, a man named Vannevar Bush wrote an article for the magazine The Atlantic Monthly. He called it As We May Think. And it was a really notable article because to date, almost all the uses of technology have augmented our physical abilities. Bush had the idea that we could augment our mental abilities, our intellectual abilities. So who is this guy? Bush was vice president and dean of engineering at MIT from 1932 till 1938, where incidentally he was Fred Terman's advisor. Fred became the dean of engineering at Stanford and for many is the father of Silicon Valley. In 1939, Bush moves to Washington, and he's a leading scientific policymaker. He directs a lot of government policy and creates a lot of it. He's instrumental in inventing.
So I'm going to scrub through quickly because I've made you endure 50 seconds of that video. And I just wanted you to see the teacher's face by the time we get to the end of his over 10 minutes of teaching online, teaching with video. So what are 3 to 5 things that don't work in this teaching video? I stopped that video after 1 minute and literally scrubbed to the end so that you would get the gist of that experience. It was pretty awful, very boring, and not engaging. I would have been better off just looking at the PowerPoint slides for the lecture. So in chat, you can write 3 to 5 things that you don't think work in this example. Well, I'm glad everybody's entertained by this because it's good to be able to bash the bad, horrible things. So audio is coming up. It's really bad. Quality of video is bad. The visuals and the teacher are out of sync. I could go on and on, but I'm going to get to the next slide and give you the answers. I get no involvement, no engagement. So There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work, but audio, it sounds like we're in a bubble under the sea. Discontinuity, the slide you see doesn't match with what the instructor is talking about. There's disruption. It's more a video of a classroom than it is of that lesson, because you're so aware of the students all arriving late. I was just feeling very smug when I saw that I wasn't paying $10,000 for that class for my student, my son or daughter, to be going to that class. He has no focused eye content. He doesn't target his audience. Even if you were there in person, you get the feeling he wasn't really engaging with the students. And there's this total lack of engagement. With the camera at the back, I thought, oh, he's going to be asking questions. It's going to be a Socratic style lesson. But in fact, he never looks up, never asks any students a question. And it's entirely passive experience. It's a return to the sage on the stage. And unfortunately, he didn't last long at Stanford. Within the next 2 or 3 years, they let him go and he didn't teach there anymore. But it was sort of a bad story about teachers not knowing, being very smart in their expertise, but not really smart in how to teach. Now on to case study number 2, how to design a resume by vlogger Karen Cavett. My daughter had just graduated from Northwestern University and was looking for her first job in the LA entertainment industry. She first decided to update her resume. And when I told her she could use LinkedIn Learning, that they had a course for that, she spurned my suggestion, saying, if you want to learn something, Mom, you just go to YouTube. So 2 hours later, she came downstairs with a new resume in hand, and I asked her to show the video that she watched that helped her do this. So I'm going to show you Karen's video. Oops, go back here again. And here we go. Get to Karen's video. So this is Karen's video, and as you can see, it's done in the YouTube style. I'm going to close out of that and start the video for you.
Hey, but I'm still getting over being sick, so I just thought I would do a talking video instead. So if you're a student looking for an internship, or your New Year's resolution is to finally get a job, you're probably taking a look at your resume right about now. So I thought that I would give you a few tips to make the best resume that you can. I'm a graphic designer, so this is coming from someone who has always been looking for design jobs and schools, but hopefully it's still useful even if you do something else. Disclaimer, I've never actually hired anyone myself, but I have applied to lots of jobs and gotten some of them, and my resume has gone through a ton of iterations over the years. I'll have a blog post down below if you want to see the entire process in higher quality. So the #1 rule for resumes is to keep it to one.
So I'm going to log out of that
page. And the best way to do that is to break it into 2 columns. You'll be able to fit a lot more information on the page, and it'll be a lot easier to read since you're not trying to read all the way across the page.
Okay, that's my bad, not Karen's bad. So I'm going to come back in and talk about Karen and what she did well in that video. And the good news for me is that my daughter got an unpaid internship that turned into a 6-month paid internship right after she sent out that resume. So what are 3 to 5 things that work well in this teaching video? You can write your answers in the chat. Yeah, she does. She really feels like she's connected with her audience. Her audience isn't me. She knows who her target audience is. It's a younger generation. It's millennials or Gen Z, Gen X. She has eye contact. She's engaging. She uses visual aids. She gives everything in short bites. It's sort of like her PowerPoint. She cuts to the PowerPoint. Boom, boom, boom. It's really practical. And you know what else she does? She got me to actually engage with the page. I scroll down to see her examples, to see her full-on recipes for doing a good resume. She defines who her expertise is. She doesn't say she doesn't say I'm a recruiter or I'll help you get a job. She says she's been getting just out of college the first 5 years and she wants to share what she's experienced. She gives a clear overview of the big idea, and then she goes into her discrete steps and what she wants those takeaways to be. And she's very engaged and very interactive. You want to watch her. You like her. You feel like she's talking directly to you. She makes sure that the camera's right at eyesight, and she crops her camera accordingly. But what I like even more, when she makes great use of YouTube as her broadcasting platform. It's free. Karen isn't getting paid. You see views and likes and comments for her video. Her audience is engaged, and their suggestions and ideas extend and expand the learning with insights and additional experiences. In fact, my two favorite comments are, your 6-minute video went over more information on resumes than my 2 years at college. This was so helpful. Now off to InDesign to fix up some things on my resume. Hey, Karen, my wife and I just had a resume designing party, and we used your video as one of the main events. Thanks for providing your resumes as examples and for all that tips. And without meeting any of these people, Karen sets up a community. People feel like they're connected to one another. I was really impressed. So what do we know at LinkedIn? Well, we know a lot. We've been doing this. We're on decade number 3. We're the overnight sensation for online video. 30 years later, we're still doing it. We know that our senses have evolved to work together. Vision influencing hearing. When you're born, hearing is your predominant one, but quickly vision takes over, which means that we learn best if we stimulate several senses at once. So there's some rules for multimedia presentation. Students learn better from words and pictures rather than words just alone. Temporal contiguity. We saw that problem in the first video. Students learn better when corresponding words and pictures are presented simultaneously. Spatial contiguity. That's if we're going to show a slide that we put the titles and the descriptions close to what the images are. The coherence principle, which the first video completely flunked, is students learn better when extraneous material is excluded rather than included. What's wonderful about Karen's piece is it goes right to the heart quickly, and it's the essential kernels. And then finally, students learn better from animation and narration than from animation and on-screen text. Hearing a human voice makes a huge difference in learning. So now to our last case study from LinkedIn Learning, where I have consulted since 2009. Ben Long's introduction to his course on Foundation of Photography Exposure is one of my favorite 60-second videos. So let me play it for you.
You want, you have to override your camera's decision-making process, and the key to knowing how to take control of your camera is an understanding of exposure. So, despite the mammoth level of 21st century technology in your camera, you still need to understand the basics of exposure theory that all photographers of 100 years ago had to learn. Because even though your camera has substantially more computing power than the Apollo astronauts took to the moon.
So what that was exactly 60 seconds. And it took over 60 people at LinkedIn Learning to make that video, from the video editors to the quality assurance team, to the producers, the script writers, the author themselves, all the cameramen. It utilizes sensory design. There's association, interpretation, integration, elaboration. It makes the senses work together, and it engages them and us. It starts out with the content being a big idea. How do lenses work? And then it goes into explaining what a lens is and the information historically and in terms of present day. And it's presented by a subject matter expert. It's a real world experience that is meaningful. It's got timing and tempo. It's a short bite. All the videos in this course are 10 minutes or less. It uses animation combined with narration, and it repeats the meaning of exposure in different ways within the movie from different points of view. And there's kind of context for who Ben Long is, what kind of photography he does. There are a variety of ways to show the concepts he's explaining. Live video, macro cameras, micro cameras, data visualizations, metaphors, analogies, diagrams, and animations, and all of that in 60 seconds. Nothing is extraneous. It's essential learning for understanding what lenses do. So instead of learning better with video, we're learning differently. What are the current best practices? Here are my 12 best practices for online video learning. Bite-sized, short, to the point, searchable. You have to be rigorous about how much you put in. Start with that big idea, add those 4 to 12 discrete steps, and always follow with your learning objectives. You all know what learning objectives are, SLOs, TMOs. It's emotional connection. The audio, it feels like it's speaking to me, just like when you select a song on Spotify, and as you listen with your earbuds, it feels like the artist is performing just for you. Video, It's visual images, motion graphics, animations. It creates engaged, memorable, emotional narratives. It's transcripts. It's making accessible for all kinds of learners. You can learn the words, the vocabulary, you can see the text tracks, you can search those. It's real-time encoded metadata. It's increased searchability. All of that provides an easier way and more accessibility for all kinds of learners with all kinds of neurodiversity. It's repetition and failure. We watch a video repetitively as much as we need to get it. There's no failure. There's as many chances as the learner needs or wants. It's like you're on the baby slope and nobody cares. There's no test, no stress. Now we do have interleaved quizzes after almost every chapter in our courses, but they're not graded. It's anonymous learning. It makes it safe to not know something. It allows the learner to be vulnerable, to transform, and to grow into their confidence in a subject matter. There's control. The player controls offer speed, viewing size, a choice of form factors, devices, whole or partial videos, whole or partial courses, according to need, subjects, and choices. It's simple. It's ease of use. You don't need a manual to use LinkedIn Learning. It's straightforward access to information. We've used the analogy of a table of contents along with what you already know about playing video on any device. It's about choice. There's no right or wrong way to view a movie. There's no left to right or top to bottom. It's searchable, retrievable video. Each clip allows the learner to determine that order. And there's lots of variety, lots of classes, lots of teachers who have lots of different voices and points of views. And time and location. This is the student's number one, anytime, anywhere learning. It's no longer linked to the static, stationary classroom or office. It can be mobile, online, or downloaded. And then for us, it's really as teachers and learners, how do we decide what should be synchronous, what should be asynchronous? Asynchronous learning means freedom from boredom, means putting the learning responsibility back on that student, or what I call OYO, on your own learning. And engagement. After 10 minutes, our attention drops. Movies that are 4 to 7 minutes each and cover one key concept are viewed by 50% of the learners. If this timestamp is 60 plus minutes, 90% of the viewers leave in the first 60 seconds. But if it's in that sweet spot of 4 to 5 minutes, 50% of the people watch the entire video. And we think that's good stats at LinkedIn. So let's think about what we just learned and see how learners put it into practice. Pictured is a challenge I give to all my students, staff, and instructors. It's called YouTube You Teach. And the goal is to create a video over 5 days that is 5 minutes long, that in 5 steps teaches someone how to do something and then post it to YouTube. You choose whatever you want to teach. It should be something you know well. And by the way, your budget is $0. For example, Christy, a former student, covers 5 types of desserts in the San Gabriel Valley in just 5 minutes. And just a note, less than 24 hours after she posted this video, she had over 160 views, more than she would ever get in a traditional classroom setting. She's a second-year student at Pasadena City College.
So I'm here at Tea Brick to try out their drinks. What's great about boba places in general is that even if you don't like one thing on the menu, there are many different things that you can try. Now, a traditional boba drink consists of milk tea and boba. They do serve that here, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. Since their fruity drinks are their most popular, I tried their Vanessa, which is a strawberry and peach flavored green tea with fresh strawberry and lychee. After we get these drinks, it's usually really nice to stir them up so everything is dispersed evenly. My friend, he got their Soda Bomb, which is a caffeine-free ice cream float, and he got the mango flavored one. What you really want to look for in a good boba place is that if you can actually taste the tea flavor in your drink. If it's very diluted in any way, if it has a lot of ice in it, or if it just tastes like plain sugar, then that's when you know that this place is not a good place to get boba. Another great thing about boba places is that they stay open really late, so you can hang out with your friends for a really long time and just catch up.
So that's exactly 1 minute. And didn't she do a fabulous job? Christy takes us on a tour of the best boba drinks in San Gabriel Valley. And this demonstrates critical thinking and analysis and makes us, the viewer, feel like we are right there in the boba tea cafe with her. The results of students, staff, and faculty is a focus on authenticity, the expressive voice, and a point of view. It pushes the boundaries. It allows for including cultural traditions, discovering your story and other people's stories, as well as to teach and share. And just a warning to you, this challenge solves the problem of integrating multiple modalities with multiple sensory experiences. The overwhelming feedback upon completion of this challenge is there's no amount of prepping that prepares you for the work it takes to create an online video. It's way harder than it looks, Lori. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a, my computer is kind of going down a little bit. See if we get back in or not. See if I can stop the share and make it go. So Stephanie, I'm a little bit locked right now. I'm getting the spinning thing of death here on my computer. I might have to log out and log back in.
That's very ominous.
But I can answer questions. No, I can't get anything to do. But everybody can hear me, right?
We can hear you, but your video is a little fuzzy.
That's okay. I can't stop the share. I'm trying to stop the share and it won't let me. Just letting you know, everybody.
I'm trying. We're no longer seeing your slides.
Well, I can't even get out right now. That's my problem. So I can't see any of the controls on LinkedIn. So I'm feeling really bad, everybody. God, what do I do when this happens? Never had this happen on a Zoom call with me. That's what I get for showing video, everybody. But we can open it up to, I will open it. I can pivot easily. I do want to talk a little bit about the library. A lot of people ask me where to start when you're doing LinkedIn Learning. Some of you have full campus access and some of you don't. And I just wanted to let you know that 15% of the content is free to everyone. So you should always check. And in the LinkedIn feed, we're always putting up free courses. All the time we're putting it, especially the ones that people are most searching for. So another thing that you should think about is if you've got full campus, we've just added a new tool, which is called LTI 1.3, and it now works and integrates with any of your learning management systems. So that means that it's connected to your grades. You can add it as an assignment. You can search for it within the LMS. You can add projects to it. You can create your own collections and your own learning playlist right there in the LMS. You don't have to go out to the library and pop back in. So imagine, like in my case, I have a lot of different ways that I use the library. Number one is I started off creating these long playlists for the entire semester, sort of like a reference librarian. They were available, but very few people used them. Then I started doing the short playlist, which was all centered around a project. And in this case, I did a project on infographics. So I found a project on infographics. I found supporting assistional training for people who didn't know how to do Photoshop or other things like that. And I sent out an email with the project description, with the project brief, with the link to my collections on LinkedIn Learning. And then I also sent a PDF of the handout. I also put that on the learning management system. And my students in this case, my students watched more videos than what I required. They wanted to go out and find out more things, try more things, do more things. So I asked them to watch 2 hours up front, and they actually ended up watching 5 hours on their own to do this project. Another thing I like to use LinkedIn Learning for is after workshops. If I'm doing a workshop like this, I'll send out a list of the recordings that I might have used or the courses that I did to help them review. For instance, I work with a lot of executive assistants at colleges and communities, and they always ask me how to do a pivot table and put it into PowerPoint. Now, this seems to be something that an executive assistant is asked to do over and over again. And what happens there is that they are working for some high-level person within the campus, but they're putting together the PowerPoint. So I created a little playlist, and it's actually 3 courses on LinkedIn. It's It's one is about PowerPoint and how to use data effectively. The other one is how to create a pivot table. And the third is how to make it look visually entertaining in it. And I just took a movie from each one of those courses and put together a short playlist, and then asked those executive assistants to try that on their own. And they all did it. They were all able to do it 2 weeks after the workshop. And the great news is it counted for their professional development. And the people that they directly reported to saw it as evidence of them trying to make their job better and to bring themselves and show initiative. I've also tried things like using LinkedIn Learning for textbook replacement. I teach a class on interaction design, and my students and I crowdsourced all the resources that we would need either through LinkedIn Learning or through the internet to create a whole course that used JavaScript development for doing interaction design on websites. Okay, I'm back. Well, maybe I'm out. Shoot, can you guys still see me? Yay, I'm back. So that's good. And I can now, so we got out of that. And so I'm just going to share my screen one more time with no videos in it and keep going and talking to you, because I do want to show you the data that I can show about what students are doing. Should open in just a sec. So those are a variety of ways. And so the textbook replacement, we put all of that data up onto a website. Now, there were only 25 of us in that class at Pasadena City College, but by the end of the semester, over 1,000 people had used that information. So I'm just going to quickly review that one more time for you so that you can see that. And these are the examples that I use most frequently when I'm teaching. As I told you, there's the challenge of the actual teacher prompts something in the class, and then you have your students do it. In this case, it was contour drawing. This is the reference bookshelf. Lots of references, but very little watched it the first 2 weeks of class, but then it goes down. I found out sending off short playlists throughout the semester works much better if you want to get students to watch. This is the infographic project. And these are the results. And this was their first time ever doing this. And as you can see, they used all of the resources that LinkedIn Learning, from data science, from data visualizations to infographics. So they used all parts of the library to do this. This is the pivot table how-to playlist that I created for the executive assistants. And then finally, the textbook replacement. And one of the things I told you about is I like to follow up with my workshop training. But the really good thing when you're teaching in the university is to think about complex problem solving that uses higher reasoning skills, targeting user assessment, thinking about user self-awareness, and gaining user self-knowledge. So I had my students in an advanced class, a capstone class, think about what skills they needed to get that wouldn't come from a class, but they would need to get employment for summer internships. And we created this rubric together. And out of this rubric, we created a series of slideshows and things that we can do. And I'm locked again. I am so sorry. This is becoming like the presentation from hell for me. But I'm going to keep going. So one of the things that we know is that if you have LinkedIn Learning for your entire campus, you have the choice of opting in or not opting in to creating LinkedIn profiles. We recommend that all students create LinkedIn profiles, but we understand that data security and data breaching is really, really important to you. So the students who do create LinkedIn profiles get a big bump because every time they complete a course in the LinkedIn Learning library, it can be shared and added just like a micro-credential. And what that does is our algorithm looks, when a student or a person identifies skills that they have, they look to see if there's evidence of a credential, a degree, or a course on LinkedIn Learning that supports the fact that they have that skill. And if they do, it bumps that skill up as being higher, more important skill of that person. That's really important for recruiters, and it helps recruiters therefore justify and have evidence that people have these skills. They're not just saying they do. The second thing that we found is that students who create LinkedIn profiles early on in their college education are 4 times more likely to get a job within the first 6 months of graduating from school. And that one of the things that they learn, 2 skills that they learn that don't come from school, is they learn how to create network. And what we found that the most important thing post-school for getting a job is having a network. After we've been out of school 5 years, most of us got our jobs, not from our degrees, but from the people that we know. So teaching students how to create a professional network and use professional social branding for their personal brand is way, way important for them. And then finally, we found that they actually are better able to post things, to talk about what they do, to talk about their professional experiences, to reach out to somebody in industry and ask for an informational interview. I get asked all the time to do informational interviews, to look at people's profiles, and I've never said no. I tried this experiment in a class I taught at Otis, a school to work course for seniors there. And every one of my students, and this was during COVID, who asked for an informational interview from somebody on LinkedIn was able to do it. It was a little bit of a scheduling nightmare, but they did all ask for a 25-minute session to do that. So that's one of the things that you can think about. The last thing I want you to think about is that LinkedIn is a vast taxonomy from its economic graph. And what that means is that we've identified over 35,000 skills that people are putting out on jobs. We have over 16,000 industry clusters identified. We tend not to use job descriptions, but we use the industry clusters because job descriptions can lead you astray. Just like my job description that Linda gave me is Education Innovation Advisor. What does that really mean? It really means I can do almost anything necessary to support and integrate the initiatives and strategy of higher education for LinkedIn Learning. But it's not said in that title. And then finally, we put those skills, our meta tag, to every single course, every single video, every single person's profile, every single job description. So what that means is that when you're looking to learn something, that those meta tags come up and work for you at all times. Everything is meta tag. That taxonomy exists as sort of this ground swell underneath everything that you're doing. So if you put on, like one day, just because I was doing this thing, I put in data visualization. Within 24 hours, 3 courses were recommended to me that would help me with my skills and data visualization, already knowing that I'd taken a slew of courses in interaction design. So these are ways that we can help our students prepare from going from school to transitioning to work, and going from that list of courses to that list of skills that's going to be so necessary in a skills-centered job economy. So at this point, I'm just going to open it up for questions and discussions and anything that anybody wants to ask me about LinkedIn or about getting LinkedIn, or anything that you want to, anything you can bash me too about LinkedIn. And I'm still sorry that my screen is locked and I can't put myself on full view. So Stephanie, are there any questions out there? Or and I don't know, can we unmute people or not?
They should be able to speak. They can unmute themselves, and
and
definitely put some questions in the chat. We can talk.
Yeah, there's only 17 people. I'm totally okay with audio chaos. If you have something to say, just turn it on and ask me. Was I that good or that bad?
So Lloyd, can you tell us what's coming down the pipe from LinkedIn? Anything new and cool that we should be on the lookout for?
The areas where people are really watching a lot is our diversity, inclusion, belonging courses have really, really significantly have jumped up. And that's one area that I could talk about forever. We're doing a lot more on how to learn and how to use the library for learning. We're doing a lot on remote working, and what it's like to be in a hybrid world. I mean, now we're not all on Zoom and we're not all face-to-face, and that causes actually more problems in a weird way. How do we handle the people in the room with the people that are out there on Zoom? We're running a whole lot of courses on how to do hybrid, conduct hybrid meetings, hybrid sessions. Well-being is top of mind. we look at what presidents and chancellors are saying, it's one of their top 5 concerns is well-being and burnout. We're seeing it amongst teachers and staff and students. So we're running a lot of courses on well-being, perseverance, mindfulness, and we're doing that in a variety of ways. We have now audio podcasts. We have people like the woman who wrote, God, I'm not going to remember. People who write books are talking about their books, like on perseverance or on grit and all of those things. We're having interviews like that. We're having what we call micro learning sessions. We're finding with the advent of TikTok and the kind of Gen Z group that we have putting up on the feed a lot of what we call micro learning, where it's you can learn something just like that pivot table in under 15 minutes. It's a 5 or 10 minute video. It's very, very short. And it's just to learn, like I said, just something, a skill you need right that moment. But a lot of these skills are interpersonal skills. At LinkedIn, we look at 3 buckets for skills. We look at your subject matter expertise as being one bucket, the one you get from your university or college. The second one is your interpersonal skills. And the third one are your technology skills. And we know that people need all 3 to get a job. But guess what? 9 times out of 10, the interpersonal skills are a list of 20 skills as opposed to 5 and 10 of the other. It's very, very important that you play well in the sandbox, that you're a decent human being with good values, that you respect other people, that you have empathy. Empathy is another big thing that we're dealing with. How to have conversations, how to be aware that somebody in post-pandemic may have lost someone, may be still grieving. How do we deal with that and at the same time get business done? These are all complicated issues. And I think 20 years ago when I was teaching, you came to school and you learned and we didn't care what happened to you in your personal life very much. But now this is top of mind. And we think it's really understanding the whole learner. The other thing is we're very, very concerned about accessibility. So I will share my favorite accessibility story. We were looking at how job recruiters were using LinkedIn to hire new grads. And one of the things that we saw that the recruiters were doing is that they were putting in the zip codes of Ivy League schools. And if you put in the zip codes of Ivy League schools, what do you think your top 10 candidates are going to be? White, privileged males from Ivy League schools. And that's what was happening over and over again. The top 10 was reflecting white privileged males in Ivy League schools. So we went back to our team that wrote that algorithm, and that was never their intention that that algorithm would be used as a workaround to get to the elite schools. And we deleted the ability to search the candidate by the school by zip code. And we made skills be a more prominent algorithm, having more weight, more value. And guess what happened? As recruiters were searching in their top 10, 3 of those were from public or state universities and represented diverse genders, diverse sexual identity, diverse backgrounds and experience. So just by changing one algorithm, we saw that we made it more accessible. And then after that, this became so powerful to us, this story, by just changing an algorithm, we started this trust department. And now every single algorithm that we write and every single tool that we build has to go through this trust department to see, is it being accessible? Does it work for all people at all levels from all kinds of backgrounds and experiences? And we started an internal thing, which started out just kind of grassroots, but now we do it annually. It's called LinkedIn Plus 3. Every LinkedIn employee is given 3 one-year accounts to LinkedIn Learning and has to give it to someone out of network and connect with someone out of their usual network. And by doing that, we're teaching people how to get out of network and not just see the mirror of themselves over and over again on the LinkedIn feed. We're really all about that accessibility and thinking about that. Any questions that I can help with? Those are some of the top things. This LTI thing is a really big deal. It's something I've asked for at least 15 years, which is that while I'm in my learning management system, I can search for a course in LinkedIn, add it to an assignment, actually see what my students watch, grade them on their ability to watch it, and then also assign a follow-up project after they've watched the video. And all of that can be graded and monitored inside my LMS, whether it's Blackboard or Canvas or desire to learn. This is a big win for me, because I really rely on using outside resources and OER and LinkedIn Learning for all kinds of ways to teach my students things. I'm really focused on my synchronous learning being very valuable, very specific, very engaged, very active, and my asynchronous, or what I call the students. I now have a new column in my calendar called OYO, you're on your own learning, and that's their asynchronous learning. And I, the first day of class, discuss what will be done together and what will be done independently. Very important to identify what those responsibilities are for the learner.
So Lori, as far as the LTI goes, how do we go about accessing that? Go ahead.
That will, anybody who's got LinkedIn Learning for the campus will have that feature.
Okay.
And the reason we're going that way is LinkedIn Learning is not just a video library anymore, it's an LXP, it's a learning experience platform. The other thing, we've added 3 new features that I'll discuss, is that if a student puts in a career, or any faculty member, plus a lot of you have it for staff and faculty, if you put in your career or your goals, then it will start personalizing that content, and it will also do a secondary assessment. It'll say what you're missing and what you need for the future. So important, not just where you are, but based on the gap and the future. And I think that's really, again, a testament to our people in the developer, our full stack team, really thinking about how to elevate the learner so that they're never feeling like, what do I do with 16,000 courses? Or knowing, who cares that we make 60 a week? It's the right course at the right time for what you need. We're really trying to help people use the library to do skills development and career development. And that's a big, big change. We have watch parties, the ability to do watch parties on LinkedIn. It was very popular during COVID. A teacher and their class can watch a video all together. That's another cool thing that you can try. We're really experimenting. We also now have book reviews, sort of like the old days when you would get that, you can do books online. We're using all different kinds of media. We found that this group of people, this young people right now, really like podcasts. And, you know, like our most popular diversity, inclusion, belonging learning playlist is about 4.5 hours long. It was required of every single member of LinkedIn to watch it, but we all watch at double speed. And I learned to watch at double speed when I was observing disabled students at Pasadena City College, both hearing impaired and visually impaired, using LinkedIn Learning. And I realized that anyone who was using a screen reader was listening very, very fast. And so I started listening fast. Now it's uncomfortable for about 45 minutes, but honestly, I do watch all of my courses on 1.5 speed, and that halves my time. Another thing I would suggest is don't put too many things that you like in the library. People get kind of what I call, like, they're in the candy shop when they first go to the library, and they put like 10 things they want to learn. But really think about it. You can only learn about 3 things over the first 3 to 6 months that you're learning something. And the algorithm actually serves you much better if you only put 3 things in. If you put in 6 or 8 things that you want to learn, you get just like, it's like a flood of courses to watch. If you narrow it down to 3, think about your bedside table. Most of you have 2 or 3 books you're reading. Put the 2 or 3 things that you really want to focus on, and you can always go back and change them anytime you want.
Excellent.
So we're almost to time. I don't know if there's any questions. I'm Elle Burris at linkedin.com. I'm on LinkedIn. As I said, I'm very available. One of my pro bono projects, Stephanie knows this, was that any student who came to me and wanted me to look at their profile during COVID, the last 2.5 years, I have looked at for free and given them a before and after session, 30 minutes before, and then see you in 2 weeks and let's look at your after. And I will tell you that of the students that I've been working with, I'd say over half of them have gotten internships or jobs by, 1, creating a better profile, getting their skills to be evidence-based, showing direct ways that they can show through their experiences, either volunteer work experience or classroom experiences, how they got those skills, and then through increasing their network.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Lori. We appreciate all your feedback, getting lots of good comments in the chat. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll see you guys in 15 minutes in the lobby to resume our session.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you all. Thank you for hanging in there.